Hi, welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to explain the functionality of the JAL SSH1106 library for the PIC Microcontroller, which is programmed to the JAL programming language. And as you can see, I'm using a different template because I switched to Linux Mint and I'm using LibreOffice now for the presentations. So what will be the contents of this video? First, a short introduction. Then something about the module that I'm using for this video, the functionality of the SSH1106 library, something about limiting the memory usage of the library, then a demonstration video, and at the end of this video you can find some references. So this SSH1106 is a 132 by 64 pixel OLED display controller. And it's often used on a module with a 128 by 64 pixel display, which is 1.3 inch wide. And the module operates at 3.3 volt, although you can also use 5 volt for this module. And there is also another one which looks like this module, which is the SSD1306, but it has some different functions than this module. This SSD is often used also in a module form within 128 by 64 pixel, only the OLED display is a little bit smaller. So this SSH1106 module comes in two different interfaces. It has an I2C interface, or you can purchase one with an SPI interface. As I mentioned before, the driver IC operates at 3.3 volt, but this module has an onboard voltage regulator. And although you can operate the module at 5 volt, the interface pins operate of course still at 3.3 volts. And the input pins of the display controller are not 5 volt tolerant, so it's recommended to use a level shifter or use a PIC also at 3.3 volt when using the module at 3.3 volts. Because there's some strange behavior. The module generates quite some disturbance signals on the interface pins, and that can lead to random pixels. And if you use the PIC and the module at 3.3 volts, you don't have this problem. And as I said before, this SSH1106 is 132 by 64 pixels, but the display which is connected has only 128 by 64 pixels. And this is what the SPI version looks like. So what are the library functions? You can then of course initialize the module using the 128 by 64 pixels, the default, but you can also select 128 by 32 pixels. You can write text using various font sizes. There are some graphics functions. You can draw a line, a box, a circle, an ellipse, and you can draw images. You can change the brightness of the display. You can put all segments on and resume the display. Not sure why you want to use it, but it's available. You can inverse the display and put it back to normal. You can put the display off and on again, of course. And you can scroll up and scroll down, which is not a feature of the module, but it's done in software. So if you look at this module, the pixels are only horizontally addressable, and vertically the SSH1106 uses pages of 8 pixels. This means that vertically only bytes can be written instead of pixels. And there's another issue: the data can only be written to the module. You can't read the data which has been written, you can't read it back. That means if you want to use graphics functions, that you need some memory to store all the pixels that have been written to the display. And for this you need a cache of 128 by 64 pixels divided by 8 bits is 1 kilobyte, which has to be maintained by the library. And of course there are PIC microcontrollers that don't have the 1K memory available, so there's an option for the library to use only the text mode. In that case there's no cache, but of course you can only write text and no graphics. And this is what, for example, a page looks like. So this is is page 0, it has 0 to 7, so 64 pixels. And you can only write bytes. So, a demonstration video. I'm using a module with an I2C interface, and I'm also using a PIC which has sufficient memory to demonstrate the graphics features. So it will start with the use of various font sizes, changing the brightness, put all segments on and resume the display, inverse the display and normal again, then the display off and on, the scroll up and scroll down function, and the graphics functions, so draw a line, a box, a circle and an ellipse. But it will also draw some images in normal mode and in inverse mode. And if you go back to this SSD1306 that I mentioned before, that also has other functions like scroll horizontal and scroll diagonal, which is not available in this display controller. So if you want to know more about JAL, you can visit the JAL website. There you can download all the JAL packages, all the libraries, all the sample files, and of course this library also. And there is a video that you can look at getting started with JAL. And if you have questions on how to use JAL, there is a JAL loop tutorial that you can download, but you can also visit the JAL List Google group and post a question. If you find some issues in JAL libraries or the JAL compiler, or you have specific requests, there is a JAL lib Google group. And all JAL sources, including all the compiler sources, can also be downloaded from GitHub. I hope you liked this video, and thanks for watching.